What is up, ladies and gents? You know what time of day it is. It's XEN time, and in today's video we're going to be talking all about XEN. We're going to be discussing what we are seeing right now on the charts, and I'll be giving you my price prediction for XEN over the coming days, as well as my targets for 2025. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. Of course, if you are a new viewer, then welcome to this channel. If you do like this sort of content, hit the like button and subscribe for more. If you are a returning viewer, as always, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you all here. So, of course, we're going to be diving straight into this video, and we're just going to start off with the shorter term here on Onyxcoin. Of course, we are on the 1 hour chart right now, and here on Onyxcoin, day by day, I'm getting more and more bullish here on the shorter term on Onyxcoin. What we have seen over the past 24 hours here in the cryptocurrency market, although it doesn't look like much here on the top right, of course, these are all the cryptos that we have covered on this channel. And as you can see, a lot of them are in the green, not by very much. Telcoin is up 10%, so that's very, very nice. But the main one still, if I just go on this chart briefly, is Bitcoin here. And of course, in yesterday's video, we were monitoring Bitcoin because, as you can see, if you look on the 1 hour chart, we saw this massive compression here on Bitcoin. Of course, this occurred basically over the past week, where Bitcoin was essentially wedged between its long-term support and its long-term resistance. Now, what we have seen just over the past few hours here on Bitcoin is seemingly some sort of breakout. That's basically when Bitcoin prices started from 84,000 there to a high of 87,500 just earlier today. Now, why is this significant? Well, because generally speaking, Bitcoin is the leader when we start to see a new bullish trend emerge in the markets. It's Bitcoin that moves first, and then that's when we start to see other cryptos like Onyxcoin follow in Bitcoin's path. Of course, we know that because if we go on the Onyxcoin chart and we just add Bitcoin onto it, we can see that if we compare the two lines, on the longer term especially, generally speaking, we see these two move in unison. Have a look at 2025, for example, that downtrend here that we saw on Onyxcoin. The pink line, which is Bitcoin, basically followed in a very similar downtrend. The past few months, from February all the way down to April, there was just a downtrend in both coins. Of course, when we saw this nice little pump here in Onyxcoin, that 3x there, Bitcoin was also making this move up. So what we're seeing here on the very short term is Bitcoin is actually starting to make a move up, but Onyxcoin has not yet responded to this. And in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before we start to see Onyxcoin catch up with Bitcoin. And if we have a look at Bitcoin here, this is where I think things are going to get very interesting, because we have broken out from this resistance. We could be starting on a new bullish trend. And for me, if the prices can claim 90,000 once again, and we can bust past this blue line at 91,000, Bitcoin should make a new all-time high pretty soon. We can see why 91k here on Bitcoin is quite significant. It was the support for this price action that we had on Bitcoin from November to January there. So this would be an important level for Bitcoin to reclaim. And of course, if we do see these kind of price moves here on Bitcoin where we do reclaim it and we start to head up to previous all-time highs, then that, my friends, is going to be very bullish for us here on Onyxcoin. Like I say, the correlation is very, very strong. So if Bitcoin's going back to previous all-time highs, we should definitely see another leg up here on Onyxcoin sooner rather than later. So of course, the first big news here is Bitcoin. It's not only Bitcoin as well that we see moving. We're starting to see other coins, more major coins like XRP, starting to move along with Bitcoin. We can see XRP has started to break out, though not as hard as Bitcoin has. So we know that at the moment, Bitcoin is taking the lead, and other cryptos are starting to move, but we are seeing that delay. So guys, in my opinion, it's just a matter of patience. It's just a matter of a few days to a few weeks here on Onyxcoin before we really start to see the Bitcoin effect really starting to pump the Onyxcoin price here. So that's the first thing that's getting me very, very excited. Of course, in other news here for Onyxcoin as well, if we have a look at its own price action, the price, as we can see, is not doing all too much. Of course, the trading volume is at lows there, similar to the trading volume that we had back at the start of April, when the prices were basically half of what they are right now. So things are extremely quiet here in Onyxcoin. But of course, that's exactly how things were back in January here as well. Do you guys remember, if you were around, that after this 6x pump, everyone was euphoric, everyone was extremely happy, and then slowly after the next few hours and days, as the price was kind of hovering around this 1 cent area, we started to see interest slip a little bit. Prices kind of basically did nothing, as you can see around this region here, and as you can see, the trading volume basically hit lows in this period as well. And this, guys, is what I'm also seeing here right now. Of course, at the end of the day, although prices look like they are slipping a little bit lower, we still have a bullish structure here where we're making higher lows here on the price, starting with this low down there, then we've got a higher low here, and just over the past few hours we've printed 2 new higher lows. So the structure is still bullish in my opinion. Of course, the upper trend line is a little bit less clear. Of course, yesterday we were monitoring something a little bit more like this. So in essence, it looks like we could have seen a breakout, but we didn't get any trading volume down here. So I'm not too convinced that was a breakout. But if we take this trend line, for example, which could also be in play here, as you can see, although we did see this as a potential fake out as the prices hit their high there at 2.7 cents, we can see the prices generally respect this resistance quite a lot as well. It's been tested on 5 different occasions, I count. So this could also be the structure that we are seeing. And of course, given the fact that Bitcoin is starting to march up to the 90,000s here, I think this would be a very fitting triangle for Onyxcoin to break out of. Of course, the exciting thing is as well that very, very shortly we will find out what is about to happen here on Onyxcoin, because as you can see, the corner from this triangle basically ends by tomorrow. So basically by tomorrow we should see a decision here on Onyxcoin whether we're going to see a breakout to the upside, or if we lose this bullish support and prices start to head down lower. Of course, if that does happen, like I say, my price target is still 1.5 cents. If we do lose this bullish support level, if we do start to climb like Bitcoin is doing right now, that is going to be very, very bullish for us, because we can treat this as a bullish pennant type structure that has occurred after a massive parabolic move. So of course, if we do break out to the upside, guys, we will be looking at this as our price target. Of course, that is the length of the parabolic move entering into this pennant type structure. We drag that to wherever we see that breakout, and this could be a potential price target to look for if we see a breakout of this type of structure. Of course, if we break out within the next few hours, that's going to be a 3.3 cents target here on Onyxcoin. So decent trade if we can catch that. Of course, what we need to see is an increase here in trading volume, and then that's going to give us the best possible chance to hit that price target. So of course, that is a critical component. If you are looking for a great place, by the way, guys, to trade this potential breakout, then look no further than the MEXC exchange. This is the exchange that I do all my trading on because it has some of the lowest trading fees and they don't require KYC to get started. And for a limited time, as you guys can see, they're giving every new user who signs up using the link in the description down below a free $20. So if you want to make the most of this offer, click on that link in the description down below and sign up. It takes less than a minute to do so. Just deposit some fiat or crypto into your MEXC account and they'll give you that $20 straight away. So of course, guys, thank you so much for supporting this channel. Let's get back into this video. So in summary of what we said so far, what we're seeing here right now in April on this chart is eerily similar to what we saw back in January. We've seen Bitcoin take the lead here by breaking out of its longer term resistance and potentially starting on a new bullish trend. Of course, although quite a lot of cryptos here are doing pretty well, we are still yet to see a new bullish trend emerge on most of these cryptos. Here for Onyxcoin, as you can see, we are still in consolidation, but I do believe it's only a matter of time before Onyxcoin starts to catch up here with Bitcoin. Of course, immediate price target, like I said, is 3.3 cents. if we can bust past that level, guys, if the prices do explode here on Onyxcoin, which we know Onyxcoin can definitely do, then of course my next target past 3.3 cents there is basically up to the previous high there at 5 cents. Of course, at the end of the day, the indicators for us here on Onyxcoin are still looking quite bullish. The RSI, for example, is at 58, so it's still within bullish territory, which is above 50. And of course, the MACD is still showing us green momentum, although it's quickly closing in the two lines there. And if we see the prices head down from this triangle that I've drawn, then we could see a bearish crossover on the MACD, which would be a sell signal on the 1-day chart. So we've not seen that yet, but we are heading in that direction if we do not see a breakout soon. Of course, if we do see a breakout, like I said before, there's plenty of room for both the MACD and the RSI to run up. Of course, as you can see, back in January, we saw the MACD hit nearly 0.008 there, and RSI was at 95. Of course, with this pump that we've had so far, we're nowhere near those levels. So Onyxcoin, in my opinion, still has much room to move higher. So things are looking very, very nice here at the moment in the shorter term, in my opinion. And of course, for the longer term here on Onyxcoin, of course, for all the longer term holders, the ones that are staking and farming Onyxcoin who don't intend to sell anytime soon, the price target for me personally here on Onyxcoin in 2025 remains the ones that can be found along these fib levels. Of course, we pay attention to these fib levels here on Onyxcoin because we know that Onyxcoin truly respects these fib levels as places of support and resistance. So for example, if you have a look at the price that we saw back in January, as we retraced down from the high there of 5 cents, we saw the prices get down to the 0.382 fib here, and we saw a perfect bounce. Prices went up perfectly from that 0.382 fib, and not only that, we saw this 0.786 fib here provide a massive resistance for the Onyxcoin price. So we know these fib levels are really well respected here on Onyxcoin. So we can kind of guesstimate that if prices continue on their route up past its previous high there at 5 cents, then in my opinion, in 2025, these two upper fibs here are the possible price targets. Of course, the first fib here is one that sits at 17 cents here on Onyxcoin. This one is very, very important because the previous all-time high that occurred back in 2022 is also at the 17 cents region. So not only do we have the previous all-time high here, it's an important fib level. So this is my first price target here for Onyxcoin. I would expect there to be quite a bit of selling pressure if prices get to that region, and therefore maybe we see something like this at that level. However, if prices do continue to go past that previous all-time high, then we can see a nice quick rally here to this upper fib level, the golden 1.618 fib, and that tells us we could see prices here on Onyxcoin as high as 33 cents. So that's my ambitious price target here for 2025. Of course, first target sits at 17 cents, and the thing that needs to happen for prices to get to these levels here in crypto is, of course, the major cryptos making new all-time highs. Of course, we need to see Bitcoin well past 100k. We need to see Ethereum, XRP, Solana all doing extremely well, making new all-time highs. And most importantly, guys, we need to see extreme greed return into the markets. At the moment, we are at 34, which, guys, is still fear. Of course, over the past few weeks, it has been an improving picture. We were at a low of 15 just 2 weeks ago, but still it's nowhere near what we saw back in November and December when the Fear and Greed Index topped out at 88. Of course, when we get extreme greed in the markets, that gives Onyxcoin the best possible chance to reach these higher price targets, and so that is also a major component for us in 2025. Of course, if we do not get that extreme greed returning into the markets, then maybe this price target up here is postponed until 2026 or later. So that's essentially my thoughts here in a nutshell in one video. Of course, like I say, extremely bullish here for the shorter term. I'm just going to be watching out for this upper trend line from this short-term chart for any potential breakout. If we do see a breakout, we could see a clean 83% pump here in the shorter term. Of course, longer term, like I say, price targets are still between 17 to 33 cents. So of course, thank you so much for for watching this video. Do let me know down in the comments if you are holding any XCN. Of course, if you are holding and you are not yet staking your XCN, be sure to check out the video that pops up on your screen. This tells you exactly how to stake your XCN, and of course it gives you free passive income. So if you're planning to hold for the longer term anyway, it's always going to be a good thing to do. Otherwise guys, thank you again so much, and I'll see you in my next video.